We're in the presence of a virtuoso.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Strat Gamer here, and this is my first ever live stream, so I'm definitely learning. I don't have the full hang of it yet, but hope there is gonna be a few of you watching, and if you are, don't hesitate to leave any comments in the chat, be it with questions or just feedback on what's happening. Okay, and in this episode, we're gonna do a couple of things. The first one is to do a very quick recap of where we are, especially things that I've done since the last episode earlier today. If you haven't seen this episode, don't hesitate to check it out later. And also, then we'll dive into some things that still are needed for tomorrow. So anyway, let's dive in. And as I said, please don't hesitate to share any thoughts, feedback, suggestions that you may have in the chat. I'll be happy to hear about it and do my best to answer questions and things like this. Okay, so diving in, a first thing that is new since yesterday is here you have those investor blocks that I created. I actually put a few items into them, and in particular these two ones, Joseph and Aristelia, to make my life a bit easier. Because this first one will provide cigars, and the second one, champagne. Why did I put the third one, Chef George? It's actually because it's providing max resident plus 10, and we know that this is something that is going to slightly change in the new update, where instead of the 10%, we're going to move to actually a number of people. And I also want to show that when we actually create, skyscrapers, it is going to still work. So that's definitely why I put them, and I put actually the same here. And yes, Migo, thanks for watching. We are indeed live. So salut. There is probably a small latency between when you write and when I see it and when I start answering. But yes, otherwise we are live. So don't hesitate to share your questions. So yes, as I was saying, those items are making my life easier so that we do provide all of it easily, and therefore we'll be able to go to the skyscrapers when they do come tomorrow. So the goal for me tomorrow is definitely to get the download of the 2 GB, because the new update is apparently 2 GB. So to get that update as soon as possible to make sure that in the evening we can play together. So probably we'll try to do another stream, and that's definitely why I'm doing today this stream to try to make it better tomorrow. Another thing I've been doing is here in the Research Institute. So I showed you in the past, I've developed a lot of different things, campus, peers, a lot of clay, oil, and all of this. So I'm ready, to make any islands that I need. But I've also, sorry, that's not what I wanted to do. I've also been doing all of the fields of research. I just need to finish this one. Why did I do that? Well, so that tomorrow when we get new items, they are actually very easy to see. I can just, because I would have researched everything else. So any items that appears, for example, if tomorrow we see 500 here, we know that this is exactly 53 new items, and we can see them together. So that was something I wanted to make sure to do definitely before the release. Another couple of small things I did, put a lot more wood here with veneers, because we know that we're gonna need veneers for the elevators. I actually put my favorite items for veneers, which are this one. Why those ones? Because with the cabinet maker, which has workforce minus 60 and the printing press minus 40, this is zero workforce, right? And on top of that, they do provide some productivity. And then Seraphim is amazing because it provides electricity, which is basically 100% productivity. On top of that, plus 50% productivity and wood veneers 1 out of 3. So this is definitely an amazing one. I think, you can see with these ones, I have only, 10 and producing 45 veneers. So that's definitely very efficient to be able to do our elevators properly tomorrow. I've also built here a very quick one for the cab, steam carriages if you prefer, with the feeding of here these coachmaker or chassis, caoutchouc coming from the New World and the wood from here. Why did I put them here? So that this oil power plant is able to just feed in the electricity there. So that was the main changes here in Falls. We still have here our investor only island, where I'm not giving them a lot of things, so there's often riots, to be honest. I need to fix that. Then we still have our old world, particularly this island here, which has a lot of, what I mean is that 10 hotels, restaurants, bars, and the Iron Tower. So that's going to be useful to also test anything that we may want to test with the new DLC. Then we also have our first island here with a lot of workforce if we need to build anything. And we have a lot of reserves. As you can see, I'm full on basically everything. So that's not optimized, of course, and it's just reserved so that we're ready for this new DLC. And then the new world, we have cotton and coconut, coffee and citrus, cigars and cinnamon. All of this will be necessary to test easily tomorrow. Then the corn island here, my coffee island, sorry, the other way around. My coffee island that is started producing, if you missed it, around 300, I think. Yeah, 300. It's quite full at this moment, quite empty, sorry, in terms of coffee beans. I need to increase that. This was the chocolate and wax. And lastly, yeah, the caoutchouc island that definitely needs a bit more work. And we didn't do anything in the Arctic. Didn't even start. I know that there's gonna be a couple of recipes that need the Arctic. We may have to do it a bit quickly at some point, but for now that's not too much necessary. And then in Mbesa, if you remember, we are producing basically everything.
There were so many people spilling out of the church door.
The glass is from the old world, but everything else is being produced locally. So if we need some, we can definitely send it to the old world. That's where we are today. Having in a fairly good stage for the release tomorrow. If you see something that's clearly missing, don't hesitate to share in the comments so that I make sure to do create it. On my mind, there was definitely a couple that I wanted to focus either today or tomorrow. One was the quartz sand. I know we're gonna need some, so I'm thinking let's just put it here. Another one was sugar. I'm actually not producing that much sugar in the old world. Let's just have, which one is it? This one, I think. No. Where is my chocolate? I forgot already. Yeah. So I do have a small production of sugar,
Of
but
course.
that's definitely not a lot. You can check. Probably something like 6, yeah. 6 out of 6, so our stock must also be close to 0, which is definitely not great. We can check. Oh no, it's full actually. And it probably is full because when I started the island, I didn't deliver the chocolate, so probably the chocolate got full and then the sugar got full. So at least we do have some reserve. I'm less worried now than I was 2 minutes ago. And hi, Thomas, it's great to see you too. And thanks for the comments. Do not hesitate if you have any question, comments, things I could show live. This is pretty much open to everybody here to tell me what you want to see tonight. There's no very big plans, except as I was saying, maybe let's just do the quartz quickly. And to do that, we're gonna do a couple of things. One is first decide what item to use, then find those items and then place it all. But yeah, keen to hear any thoughts that you may have. So on the sand mine, a small tip for those of you who haven't really followed maybe my previous series, especially the Scholar one, is I like to use a lot the external asset viewer. If you don't know where it is, I'm happy to share it with you in the comments later. And I'm sorry, I'm probably gonna butcher a couple of names today. If you're regular viewers, my pronunciation is definitely not the best. But is it Adarsh Modi? Hope I pronounced it okay. And I see other people joining. Slot Kirari. So thanks everybody for joining and tuning in. It's great to see. As I was saying, we're really preparing today for the release tomorrow. I'll be streaming live for that release and showing you everything. If you've seen some of our previous video, I hope you know that I'm following all of the dev blog. I was also part of the technical test, so I actually do have quite a bit of knowledge on this new DLC, and hoping to dive right into it and then turn back into a max investor run, because this new DLC definitely offers a lot of new possibilities, be it with the 5 levels that we're gonna have, also the panorama effect. I'm pretty sure from the technical test that we know that having all level 5 is not the answer. And a small spoiler is that actually even having any level 5 may not be the answer. And I see your comments on the Scholar without Docklands. So that's actually not really in this save. This was another save, which we can go into, but basically it's all about the min-maxing in M-Besa. Because the great thing about Scholars is, so I actually do have a lot of, I mean the 200,000 research point without setting up in M-Besa. Okay, so that is here. I do have a number of scholars, and I'm not saying I didn't set up M-Besa at all, but there's also a lot of things that where you don't need M-Besa to actually have scholars, because the university, electricity, and the radio tower doesn't need any goods at all. Then the canned food is completely from the old world. So the only one that are in the suit is partially from M-Besa and partially from the New World and the stew. And yeah, M-Besa is definitely not the easiest. I do suggest you check out my Scholar Run series. You'll see I put a lot of sort of suggestion on how to do M-Besa. For me, if we go quickly into it, sort of I don't have a perfect island because, but it's sort of here. You want to do something like this, where you're gonna have one canal that goes from the middle with a road, so that you can put buildings on both sides of that canal, and then a few, let's say if that one is sort of horizontal, a few vertical canals that will enable you to really go to the end of the space. But I do agree that it's definitely not the easiest region. I think Mbesa and the Arctic do present some interesting challenges, but it is definitely possible. I mean, I'm not the only one who reached more than 2 million scholars. There's also another great YouTuber out there that's called Fox. Don't hesitate to check out his videos. And thanks, man, for saying that you watch all of my videos. That's great to hear, and I hope it helped. And thanks, Kinan, for joining. I see a lot of great regulars here. It's great to see you all. Thanks for tuning in. And as I said, don't hesitate to share any question or things that you want to see. I'm happy to dive into that. So going back a bit to the sand mines, obviously, we're gonna use this space here. You have a couple of choices in terms of, especially since the dockland is, you don't have to build them here. You can, if you want, build them right to the end. The only challenge with that, I mean, there's two challenges. So the first one is for your warehouses, you still need to put them on land. So if you're putting a lot of them far from here, you're gonna need a lot of warehouses here. And the second challenge is if I put it here, well, now my trade union is not gonna help. Versus if I put it here, I can put a trade union and also where is it? It's in city. Sorry, I forgot one. My Harbor Master office. So I can sort of double the items that we're using now on this sand mine, and therefore have a crazy boost sand mine, obviously with no workforce for sure, but even a great productivity. It's great to hear, Kinan, and indeed, I think me, like a couple of other streamers and YouTubers, felt that having this new High Life DLC is really a good way to start a new game. And for Thomas, I'm not sure what you mean by a regular game. This is a game that I indeed started just sort of 2 weeks ago in easy difficulty. The seed is 975 corner, the quite well known. If you look at the old world, it's that one. And I did activate a few modes at the beginning to get me started very quickly, in particular things like to get a lot of resources or to be able to buy items. So for example, if we go here into Ellie, you can see that if I go into items, I actually have 99,999. And yes, it is a sandbox indeed, not a campaign. So I have an unlimited amount of items, so I don't have to wait for this restock here. And also I have all of them, so I don't need to roll all the time, because rolling is just money, and when you're making a lot of money, it's not a problem. So I honestly don't see that as cheating at all. It's just for me to do it a lot quicker, because also all of these items are available in the Research Institute. So if I want, I could just develop them, and that would just take time. It's not hard, it's just time. So that for me is why I'm using those mods, but I'm not using any mods that are going to alter the game. So for example, I'm not using the mods that are changing, that are taking out the rivers in the new world, or mods that are making all of the buildings stronger or things like this, because the goal at the end is to do a run, so a max population sort of record with these skyscrapers. But the record would be without any docklands too. So that's for me what's a bit the challenge, because I feel that with docklands it's very easy to I mean, basically you create a lot of penny farthing, you put a few items on it, and then you just sell the excess product into other products, and you don't need any productions. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't hesitate to check out the video that's on my channel. That's called 5.6 million population. You'll see it's clearly explained there on how to do it. On your question on the mods, I think mods are really great. I wouldn't say when you start your first game you do for mods, right? Like it's good to first do a campaign and learn the game, but then when you've sort of finished once or twice, those mods can provide new challenges. There are mods that make the AI stronger, the pirates stronger. There are mods that give you new ornaments or new buildings. I have many of those videos on my channel, so don't hesitate to check those out. The only challenge indeed is in the multiplayer. Then you often need all of the player in that session to have the same mods, otherwise it can start to create a number of problems. So yeah, that's definitely what I would say about mods. So in going back to my sand, what I personally actually like, because what I said on the trade unions, is to put them on the shore and to use the space that you still have here to put two things. One is first start with piers like this, and then put some depots, because we're gonna need a lot of reserve. So right now, as you can see, there's a bit of everything, right? I created this recently. It's also to test the new DLC, so that's why I have population and production and all of this. At the end, when I'll go for the actual record, this will be only production. This will be especially to clip buildings. I know some of the new buildings, like the assembly factory, will be able to clip. Otherwise, it can also be buildings like your steam carriages that take a lot of space. So if we can clip them, they will definitely take less space. And by clipping, if you don't know what I mean, is this. If I put this building here, you see that the two trade unions are actually in blue, meaning that if I put items in both, I don't know if I have a lot of items there, sorry to be, yeah, I don't really have a lot of items, but this one should apply, right? So you can see this angular applied here, and now I can put other items here. Which one is gonna apply? Maybe it's not carpentry, right? I don't see one that applies here. Shame. Okay, that's a fail. Sorry about that, ladies and gents. But basically, if I put another item here, it's still gonna work. They will both apply to this building, and therefore you get you get the double impact. And actually, even if I do this, you see now that even the palace effect, so the minus 50% or the plus 36% in that case of the Department of Labor, they apply 2 times. So that's why clipping is huge, and that's why I want to use Control for production and not for people. People, I can put them anywhere, even on a small island like this. You can feed people. You also even use only one power plant to cover everything. It's perfect. Versus an island like Control, there's actually only one. So for production, this is really, in my opinion, the best. So now, what items do we want to put? And as I said, we're gonna need to look at items for both the trade union and the harbor master office. For the harbor master office, there's two techniques here. One is to put them here on the shore. Another is actually to put them here. Let me destroy that. You can see if I put it here, for example, I can cover those four. I may be able to cover a fifth one actually. Let me just put it there. It's easy. Together, yeah, I can put 4. So 5, like this, right? Now, if I put it actually on the shore, you can usually get sort of 3 or 4 on one side, but also 3 or 4 on the other side. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's fine. So for example, here 6, and I still can put something like this here. I can still put also all of them here. So that's why for me, I usually prefer to put them there. But it all depends on, you know, the shape of the shore, how long it is, and things like this. I don't think there's a perfect rule, but just want to show you a bit the pros and cons on both sides. One thing that you may also not know that you have to be careful is here. This is not a paved road. This is actually, you know, a dirt road, or at least the speed of it is, and also sort of the range. So if you're thinking about something like the palace, it's a lot better if you want to extend the range of a palace. You know, I don't think it's touching there, to be honest, because my palace is not yet, it's only at 58. Let's see where we get to. You know, almost, almost there. But basically, you know, if you're running out of range, you definitely don't want those type of roads here. You want to make sure that you continue the road here like this. But if your palace can reach the end, if you have enough warehouses that this range here or this reduced speed is not important, then go for it, because that way you can put, instead of a road here, now I can put a house or whatever, right? So this is all about space optimization, because this is sort of free space, right? This is a shore space that you're not gonna use anyway. And hi Sim, great to have you here too. So as I was saying before, to everybody, don't hesitate to share any questions, thoughts that you may have. I mean, we're basically a bit free building here. There's no concrete plans. I'm not saying I want you to leave right away, because you see I say no plans, but this stream is really also for all of you to be able to interact, just ask your question, your thoughts or your ideas. I actually do have one idea I want to test on a new item that's coming out tomorrow, that I want to prepare for. So, but before that, just wanted to look at a bit the sand production, as I was saying. It's not perfect or anything, but it will give us a bit of sand, which is needed for some of those new recipes. Now, you may be wondering about these warehouses, like how many warehouses, where to put them, and things like this. So obviously the where to put them is the first key element, because you don't want to put them out of range, right? So if we look at this one, which is sort of the further one that I'm gonna put, there may be also some over there. You want this green range to be in range of at least 1 or 2 warehouses. Why more than 1? Because you don't want everybody to only be able to deliver to the same, right? You want them to have a choice, so that they don't, you know, I don't know, when we get to 4 or 6, whatever it is, that there's not 2 people waiting just because they can't go to the one next to it. So it's good to be able to reach 2. Here, as you can see, we can reach 2. We can't reach the third one just by 1 time, which is indeed what I was saying earlier, right? We can actually test it. Hopefully the test will work. Once again, I'm doing all of this live, so no idea if it will work. But you can see here, this is 1 tile away, right? And it needs to go through this patch of streets which are not paved, as I was saying. So now, if we actually pave them, let's see if we reach. And here we do reach. As you can see, we have 2 more tiles. So this is a concrete example of what I was saying before around why it may be important to have paved roads and not those fake roads, which are actually dirt roads. So that was the first thing around the warehouses, is the range of those warehouses. This is the first one. The second one is around how many do you need. So how many do you need? There's math around it, right? Of course, around, you know, how long does it take for somebody to deliver or to load, as we can say, in a ramp. How many buildings need to deliver to that warehouses? How often do they need to deliver, right? So for example, right now we are at 30-second processing time because I haven't put any items, I haven't changed, you know, where is it? It's in the worker, right? I haven't changed the working conditions on it. When you start putting items and changing working condition, that will of course make the calculations a lot harder, right? You won't be at 30 seconds anymore. You will be at something very different. So that's why the math for how many warehouses can quickly get very complex. Another reason why it may become very complex is that there's actually the theoretical math, but there's also sort of, how do I explain that? Kind of reason why those math are not perfect. And it's things like when you can deliver to 2 different ones, which one are they going to choose? Or it's things like if I put an intermediary good productions, like, you know, the glassmaker for sand. Oops, sorry about that. They will try to first deliver to the sand, but then if the sand is full, then they will try to deliver to the warehouses. And sort of this complexity of it's not just one-to-one start creating divergence between the perfect math of, you know, I have, let's say, 3 sand mines and therefore I need 1 warehouses to the number you actually need. And there's some people that have done a lot of details analysis on this. You can find them a bit or more on Reddit and things like this. I won't go into details, but basically my sort of conclusion is for the warehouses, I forget a bit the math. And sure, math are important to know, okay, do I need 10 or do I need 20 or do I need 5, sort of the range. But then you need to just do trial and error, which basically mean, you know, you need to put all of your buildings, you need to put all of your items into the harbor master office and the trade union in that case. You need to put your working condition if you want. And then you need to let them run with a number of warehouses. Of course, you probably, I mean, if you're doing a sort of optimization, you probably want your warehouses fully optimized, fully, you know, leveled at where they have, how many is that? 6 ramps for the old world and 4 for the new world, because you want to use the least space as possible, right? And, you know, you let them run and you see if it actually stalls. And if it stalls, it's not if you see somebody here waiting, that could be fine, because there's it's not a problem that somebody waits for just a few seconds. The problem is if the sand mine is full and has nowhere to deliver. that's when it really gets into a problem. And at that point, that's where you know you need to add one more warehouses, right? When you don't face this problem anymore, that means you are at the right number. So if you start, if you start low, if you start with only, let's say, for example, 2 warehouses, it gets it's stalling. Then you put a third one. If it's still stalling, you put a fourth one. If it's not stalling anymore, you know that fourth is sort of your local optimization here. So that's what I would say about warehouses. Don't hesitate if that wasn't clear, or if you have comments. I'll do my best to answer. Okay, so now going into the other thing I wanted to test slash start sharing with you all today is there is a night. So if you haven't seen early plays or the dev blog and things like this, let me just tell you that one of the big things we're gonna need to produce is ethanol. And we're gonna need to produce ethanol in the new world, right? Because the building is actually in the new world. It also requires corn, which is also in the new world. So it's gonna take some space in the new world, basically. Another bad thing about it is for those building, it seems we won't really be able to, for the ethanol building, the chemical factory basically that will produce ethanol, is we won't be able to have zero workforce, and therefore we're gonna need even more space because we're gonna need population. We're gonna need even more space because we're gonna need to feed that population. And why is that a big problem? Is because at least in the first calculation that people like me or folks have done is if we want to do a max population investor, the problem we're gonna run is actually the new world. The new world, especially coffee, chocolate, things like this, are gonna be a problem. So having this new ethanol tech space in the new world is actually very annoying to us. But there is a solution that I think may be very helpful. I haven't run the math because I need to just get access to those final items and final production rates and things like this, which can be definitely different from the technical test to be able to do the final math. But basically, there is an item which will produce ethanol as a byproduct in any drink factory. And we have many drinks factory. And folks, thanks for joining. I actually mentioned you earlier, so it's great that you're here. So yes, as I was saying, it will be able to produce ethanol for any drinks factory. And then if we look at the drink factory, we do have a few. There are some in the new world, like the coffee or the rum. But if you've been listening to me, I was just saying that I don't want to produce more things in the new world. So that's definitely not a great idea. So let's go now in the old world. And here we do have a number of other productions, right? Of drinks, I mean. The first one is the schnapps. And what's good with the schnapps is even without electricity, it's 30 seconds. So it's quite quick. It's farmers. There's a lot of items that improve it. So that's actually my idea is I think I'm going to try to produce a lot of schnapps somewhere and use that item on this trade union to get ethanol for free instead of producing the ethanol that we need in the new world. There are other options like beer. It should be also, a drink, if I'm not mistaken. There is also the champagne, but these ones, start requiring a lot of other things. The champagne could actually be an option, to be honest, for two reasons. The first one is we are producing vineyards usually sort of for free through the items in the new world, like these ones here, I think. I have them. Yeah, no, that's the wrong one that I choose, of course. it's all the other ones, not this one here. Yeah. So for the coffee, also the caoutchouc, you can put the horticulturalist, and you can put also the arborist. But the main one is the horticulturalist. As you can see, grapes 1 out of 13. So just on this island here, where I'm only producing 300 coffee, which is actually in terms of coffee beans, half of that, because most of the coffee comes from the coffee roasters themselves. So how many is that? Only 27 coffee plantations. You can see I'm producing 7 grapes already. In my other save, the Scholar Run, I was producing like more than 200 grapes for free. So using those grapes for free for the champagne, it means that you don't need space, right, for this champagne versus I will need space for potatoes in that case. And the second reason is to potentially have the champagne actually as a good option. It's also 30 seconds, and it will use sand, which once again doesn't really use sort of my main island space. It uses the shoreline, right? So I basically need to run a bit of the math here around, is champagne better than the schnapps for this new item, and will that be enough, to warrant the space that's gonna be taken versus just doing it in the new world. I'm pretty sure it will be, so that we can make more coffee and things like this in the new world. But yeah, the jury is still out, as they say, before we are able to see all of those items and really do the math. So that was definitely the second thing I wanted to share today after the quartz, the sand mine, to look at this potential idea of using the drinks in the old world to produce ethanol instead of doing it in the new world. And yeah, I don't see a lot of questions popping up in the chat. So do tell me, everybody, if there are other things you want to see tonight. Otherwise, maybe we'll just stop here and basically prepare mentally for tomorrow's big night with the release of the DLC, so we can dive right in tomorrow. But if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to share now in the comments. I'll be happy to try to answer those questions or show you in this save where we are on some of these elements. Folks, if you're still here, you can also share what your next episode is gonna be for everybody who's there that wants to know what you have in stock for them. I don't know also if you're posting tomorrow for the new DLC, or if you're gonna take some time first to prepare. And in the meantime, I think let me just buy a few items. Oh no, let's finish first what I mentioned earlier on the items. Once again, just making sure to just research all of those items so that tomorrow, when the new one, the new DLC comes out, I can see, any items that appear here, I know they are new. That doesn't mean this will be all of the items, right? Because there could also be sort of old items that now impact new buildings. So we will have to be careful and do things like, go into Control T for your items. I don't know, do something like hotels. And today, there's very few, only these which are basically useless. So on your chance of fire or illnesses, tomorrow there may be other old items that still will impact them, or there will also be new items. I know that for sure. There was definitely some in in the technical test, and I've seen already some streamers with early access show that. So we know there are some for hotels, there are some for the assembly lines and things like this. So that's going to be interesting. If you haven't seen those, what's really new about these items is they actually always come at a cost in terms of trade-off. So for example, it's almost never productivity and decreased workforce. It's usually productivity but more workforce, or less productivity equal less workforce too, type of thing. They also often increase the cost, so the maintenance cost, which in the past has never really been a problem for anyone, right? Like even in a small save like this that I just started, I'm making 200,000. Money is not a problem end game in Anno these days, but with the skyscrapers, they actually come with a high maintenance cost, which could become a problem. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on for sure. But yeah, that's those items are definitely going to be something interesting. From what I've seen, we will be able to do some pretty interesting things. There are a couple of items that significantly decrease workforce, so we may still be able to do some some production only islands without any workforce or any commuter tiers or things like this. But yeah, that's not going to be the case everywhere for sure, and definitely will come at a cost of of productivity or maintenance or all those type of things. They also often come with higher risk of fire and things like this, which, to be honest, once again, that's not my main concern, honestly. I think we're by that time you're making a lot of resources. You can just rebuild everything. That's not the problem. Okay, so I don't see any other questions popping in the chat. So I think we're gonna stop anytime soon now. But thanks everybody for joining, especially it was great to see everybody who's put some comments into the chat. As I said, please don't hesitate to join tomorrow. I don't know exactly yet at what time. It will also depend on how quickly the update downloads. I'll remind everybody that I do live in Africa. I don't have 10 gigabyte per second, internet. But I'm quite pleased that at least it seems that this stream didn't have any issue with the connection, with the quality. If you did so, any issue, do tell me. Be good to know, so I can also try to improve for tomorrow. But yeah, it was great to see everyone and to hear that you like this. Don't hesitate to also tell me what you would want to see in a live stream. Is it focusing on me just building and shutting up? Is it more me showing you the results of something that I've done offline, or maybe even focusing on quest or anything like this? I'm keen to hear your thoughts on those streams, given that once again this is my first one, so definitely still learning here. But yeah, thanks everybody for joining, and definitely hope to see you tomorrow for the great release of the High Life.